Hi, today we will see controlling. The controlling is the process of regulating the organizational activities so that the actual performance conforms to expected the organizational goals and standards. Controlling lets the manager tell if the organization is on the track for the goal of achievement, and if not, why not. A well developed plan should provide the benchmark that can be used to control the process. Controlling consists of verifying whether everything occurs the conformities with the plans adopted, the instructions used, and the principles established. The controlling ensures that there is the effective and efficient utilization in the organizational resources so as to achieve and plan the goals. The controlling measures the deviation of actual performance from the standard performance that discovers the causes of such deviations and helps in taking corrective actions. Definition of controlling is the systematic exercise which is called as a process checking the actual performance against the plans and with view to ensure the adequate progress, and also recording such experience as is gained as the contributions to the people to the future needs breach, just as a in navigator actually takes place reading to ensure the whether is relative to planned the action, so should be the business manager continually take the reading to assure himself enterprise on the right course on the this is the tell by the Donald. The importance of controlling helps in achieving the organizational goals. When plans are made, the organization directed towards the achievement of the organizational goals, and controlling the functions ensures that the activities in the organization takes place according to the plan, and if there is any deviation and timely action is taken bring back to the activities on the path of the planning. Judging the accuracy of standards through the strategic controlling, we can easily judge whether the standard or target set are accurate or not. An accurate control system receives the standard from the time to time, match them with the environmental changes, making the efficient use of the resources like traffic signals, controls, guides, and the organization keeps on the right track. Each activity is performed according to the predetermined standards. As a result, there is a most effective use of the resources, improving the employee motivation. An effective control system communicates the goals and standards of appraisal for employees to subordinates well advanced. A good control system also guides the employees to come out from their problems. This is the fair communication and care motive, and employees to give the better performance ensures the order and discipline. The control creates an atmosphere of the order and discipline in the organization. The effective controlling system keeps the subordinates and under the check, makes sure they perform their functions efficiently. Sharp control can be give check over the dishonesty, fraud employees, and strict the control and monitor the employees work on the computer monitor, which brings the more order discipline in this work environment. Facilitate the coordination in action. The control helps to maintain the equilibrium between the means and ends. The controlling makes sure that the proper direction is taken and that various factors are maintained properly. All the departments are controlled according to the predetermined standards, which are well coordinated with the one another. Control provides the unity of direction. Controlling helps in improving the performance of the employee The control insists of continuous check on the employees to control helps in creating the atmosphere in order to and discipline. Under the controlling function, it is made sure that the employees are aware of their duties and responsibilities is very clearly self-appraisal report. The employees are asked to prepare the report of their performance and to explain whether their performance is the accordance with the plan or not. In this report, the employees specify their achievements. The performance of the appraisal reports by the supervisors. The supervisors continuously monitor to observe the employees when they are performing the job, and comparison between the standard and actual performance is done on the basis of his observation. The managers prepare the performance appraisal report. This report become the base of the giving promotions, increments and bonus etc. to the employee. Have to have a good report of the employees performed efficiently and effectively. The controlling helps the minimizing the error. The small error is small mistakes may not be seriously affect the organization, but if these errors are repeated again and again, it will become the serious matter and can be bring the disaster in this organization. An effective controlling system helps to minimizing the errors, continuous monitoring and check. The managers try to direct the errors and take the remedial step to minimize the effect of the error. The features of controlling functions. The controlling is an end of the function, the function which come once the performance are made in conformity with plans. The controlling is preserved. The functions, which means the mentioned by the managers all the levels in all types of concerns. Controlling is forward looking because the effective control is not possible without past being controlled. The controlling is always looks to future, so the follow up can be made whenever is required. The controlling is a dynamic process since the controlling requires to taking the renewable methods. Changes have to made whenever is possible. The controlling is related with planning. The planning and controlling are two inseparable functions of management. Without planning and controlling, the meaningless exercise. Without controlling, the planning is useless, and the planning supposes controlling, and controlling the success planning. Essential requirements of the good control system in an organization. The focus objective. The control system should be always focus the objective. It should be to achieve the objectives organization. Suitability. The control system is suitable for the needs of the organization. The promptness. Control system should be prompt, that is, that should be find out the deviations quickly. This will be help the management to correct the deviations quickly. The flexibility. Control system should be flexible. It should be changed according to change the plans and situations, environment, etc. A rigid control systems will always fail. Hence, the flexibility necessary for the control systems. Forward looking. The control system should be forward looking. It should be forecast the future deviations. That is, it should not be find out the deviations before it happens. It should also take the steps to prevent these future deviations. The economical. The control system should be economical. This means that the cost of the control system should not be more than its benefit. The proper standards. The control system should be have the proper standards. The standards should be very clear. They should be the definite, verifiable and specific measurable. They should not be too high, too low. The motivating control system should be motivating, that is, it should be give the more importance to preventing the mistakes and less important for punishing the employees. so that it should be encouraged and not discourage the employees. The limitations of controlling difficulty in setting the quantities of standards. Control system is the losses of effectiveness when the standard performance cannot be defined in quantitative terms, and it is very difficult to set quantitative standards for human behavior, efficiency level, job satisfaction, employees' morale, etc. In such cases, judgment depends upon the direction of manager. No control on external factors, and enterprises cannot control the external forces such as the government policies, the technological changes, and change in the fashion, change in the competitor policy, etc. The resistance for the employees often resist to control the results of the effectiveness of control reduces. The employees feel the control reduces the curtails the freedoms. Employees may resist and go against the cameras, observe them minutely. Costly effort. The control the expensive process that involves a lot of time and effort as a sufficient attention as to paid to observe the performance of the employees. To install an expensive control system, the organization have to spend a large amount of the management must be compare the benefits of controlling the system with the cost involved in installing them. The benefits must be more than the cost involved, then only the controlling will be effective, otherwise it will be lead to inefficiency. The controlling process establishing the standards is measured to measure the performance, measuring of the actual performance, comparing performance with standard, taking the corrective action. The establishing the standards to measure this involves making the decisions about the goals in an organization wants to focus during the period of time. These can be financial, customer satisfaction, protection of the employee, and performance related goals. The measuring of actual performance. This involves creating the measuring tools to collect the data. Tools should be able to report the performance as relates the standards measures. Develop the first step of the controlling process. These tools can be balance sheet, sales report, data collected from the customer satisfaction, or even the employee performance appraisal. Comparing the performance with the standard. This involves comparing the actual performance to the performance standards based on the data collected in the second step of controlling process. Using the measuring the tool created in this step. Second step, the managers are able to compare the current performance and productivity and the standard state. The manager may want to compare the sales and performance from the last year to this year, comparing the actual sales from the previous year, the sales of the current year. This comparison tells the managers whether the sales team is below the meeting, is exceeding the goals. These are called the variance on the difference between the expected what is actually occurred, the taking the corrective action. This involves determining whether the changes need to be made, what changes to be made, diagnosing the plan and making the changes. The managers will use the comparisons to determine what needs an investigator. If the sales are lower than the expected, managers will look the various things. Perhaps the salespeople are not making as many client called as they did last year. In this case, the corrective action may be taken against the employee for the non-performance. A manager may be look at work itself. There are the too many clients and not enough staff. In this case, the manager may have the hire more staff, and the price of the product or the service may be too high, and it may be affect the demand In this case, the manager we have to look at ways to add the values, product, and all the services, the low prices, advantages of controlling the to control the improves the goodwill, the quality control improves the quality of the products, the cost of the control decreases cost of the products. Therefore, the organization can supply the good quality of the product and at lower prices. This increases the goodwill of the organization. Control minimizes the wastages. Control helps to reduce the wastage of human, the material, financial, and resources. This increases the profit of the organization. Control ensures the optimum utilization of the resources. Control helps the organization to make the optimum utilization of the available resources. This also increases the profit of the organization. The control helps to fix the responsibility. Control helps to fix the responsibility of the particular job and on a particular person or a particular department. So, if there is any mistakes of the particular person or particular department will held responsible for it. The control guides the operation. The control fixes the certain standards. All the work is to be done according to these standards. So control acts like the traffic signal, guide all the operations in the organization in the right directions. The control minimizes the deviation. Control minimizes deviations between the planned performance and actual performance. The control increases the efficiency. The efficiency relationship between the cost. If there is a high return at low cost, then there is the efficiency vice versa. Control leads to high returns and low cost, therefore increases the efficiency. Control facilities coordinations and control facilities the coordination between the different department in the organization. Any deviation in the different departments can be come together to take the collective and corrective steps. Types of control: feed forward control, sometimes called the primary and preventive controls, and attempt the identity of the prevent deviations of the standard before they occur. Feed forward control focus on human, material, and financial resources within the organization. These controls are evident in the selections and hiring new employees. For example, the organization attempts to improve the likelihood that the employees will perform up to standards by identifying the necessary job skills, by using the test and other screening devices to hire the people with these skills. The concurrent controls: the monitor is outgoing employee activity to ensure the consistency with the quality standards. These controls rely the performance of the standards, rules, and regulations guiding the employee task and behavior. Their purposes is to ensure that the work activities produce the desired results. As an example, many manufacturing operations include the devices that measure the where the items are produced to meet the quality standards. The employee monitor instruments measurements. If the standards are not being met in some area, they make the corrections themselves. Let the manager know that the problems is occurring. Feedback controls involve reviewing the information to determine whether the performance meets the established standards. For example, suppose that an organization established a goal, its profit and 12% of the next year. To ensure this goal reached, the organization must monitor the profit by monthly basis. After 3 months, if the profit has increased by 3%, the management might assume the plans are going according to the schedules. The management by extension control principles which suggest that the manager should be informed the situation only if the control data show the significant deviation from the standards. Management by exception means that the management intervenes in daily operations only if there is a deviation or variance between the actual results and planned results. MBE encourages the workers to exercise the judgment when doing their work as long they are within the guidelines has been established. They can continue the working as they see fit. The management by expectation is a management systems where the business results are compared against the results that were either budget or planned. It saves the time, energy, senior executive, and enables to concentrate one or more important problems and issues. It even provides the key of the automation for the ordinary routine matters can be handled by an automatic machine, while the cases exceptional nature can be left the human judgment. If the facilities of the management specialize the staff for the high routine jobs, it leads the identification of the critical problem areas. It stimulates the communications. Budgetary control techniques. The budget is a quantitative expression of a plan for the defined period of time. It may be include the planned and sales volume and revenues, resource quantities, cost and expenses, assets, liabilities and cash flows. It expenses the strategic planning of business units and organization activities or events in measurable terms. The budget helps aid of planning of actual operations by forcing the managers to consider how the conditions might change and what steps should be taken now, and encouraging the managers to consider the problems before they are arise. It also helps to coordinate the activities of the organization, compelling the managers, those of the other departments. Essential budgets of the organizations include to control the resources, to communicate the plans of the various responsibilities and central managers, to motivate the managers to strive achieve the budget goals, to evaluate the performance of the managers, to provide the visibilities of the company's performance for accountability. Control techniques to enable the managers effectively control the organizational activities. Large number of the controlling techniques are available. They are produced by the right quality and quantity of the foods. The right time. The managers should know these techniques, situations in which they apply, and variable that should be considered applying the techniques. Traditional techniques, observation, break even point, and statistical report, budgetary control, the management audit and return investment and PERT and CPM. The problem of limitation and budget. The budgetary control can be create the problems. The disadvantages of the budgets are the major problems occurs the budgets are applied machinery and rigidly. Budget can be demotive the employees because lack of participation, and budget arbitrarily imposed top down, and employees will not be understand the reasons of the budget expenditure and will not be committed to them. The budget can cause the perception of the unfairness. The budget can create the competition on the resources and politics. A rigid budget structure reduces the initiative and innovation at all lower levels, make it impossible to obtain the new ideas. The characteristics of the good budget. The participation, it involves as many people as possible in drawing up the budget. Comprehensiveness, enhance the whole organization standards, base it on the established standards of the performance. Flexibility, allow the changing of circumstances. Feedback, constantly monitor the performance, analyze the cost of the revenue. This can be done on the basis of the product line and department or cost center. Classification of the budget: the short term budget, long term budget. What is the short term budget? We cover according to the function: the sales budget, production budget, cost production budget, R&D budget, and the cash budget, master budget. According to the flexibility: fixed budget, flexible budget. The short-term budget may cover the periods of 3 to 12 months, depending upon the nature of the business. It should be long enough to allow the completion of season or all aspects of the business. The period should be coincide with the financial accounting period to facilitate the evaluation of the performance. Example: a student allocating the pocket money to these monthly expenses like food, clothing, rent, and leisure activities and stationery, etc. Long-term budget: the systematic and formalized process for directing and controlling the operations for the period of extending behind 1 year. It evaluates the features of implications associated with the present decision. The market trends change the demographics and national income, etc. play the important role in preparing the long-term budget. It improves the full forecasting and evaluation of an organization over the period of time. Example: a father planning the money requirement for his child future. The classification of budget according to the function: sales budget. The sales budget is contain the itemization of company sales and expectation for the budget period in both units and dollars. A sales budget is the financial plan depicting how the resources should be best be allocated to achieve the forecasted sales. The sales budget is the management estimate of sales the future financial period. A business uses the sales budgets to set the department goals, estimate the earnings, and forecast the production requirements. The sales budget is the product both the other operating budgets and overall master budget of the company. The production budget is the financial plan and that lists the number of the units to be manufactured during the period. In other words, the budget estimates the number of the units that plant will produce from the period to period. The production budget is the schedule showing the planned production in units which must be made by the manufacturer during the specific period to meet the expected demand, sales, and planned finished goods inventory. The production budget is the computes the number of units and the company needs to produce in order to meet the sales budget. The production budget shows the quantities to be produced, achieving the sales and keeping the sufficient inventories. Cost production budget: the budget shows the estimated of the cost of the production. The production shows the quantities of the production. These quantities production is expressed in terms of the cost in production cost budget. The cost of the production shows the details in respect of material cost, the labor cost, and factory overhead cost. R&D budget: the tool planning, controlling research and development cost, helps the coordination with the companies with other plans and projects. That helps the allocations of funds and R&D coordinating the companies immediate and long-term plans, helps in planning the staff and equipment requirements and for R&D. Cash budget: it contains the detailed cash inflows and cash outflows for the budget of period some other specific period. It indicates the effect of the cash pushing and seasonal requirements and the unusual slowness and collecting the receivable. Indicates the availability of the cash. This shows the availability of the excess for the short-term investment, helps to planning the intermission of the income tax and installment payment of the employees. Master budget, it is summary of the packages for the business firm. It can be called the product budget, making the process. It reveals the management of the good revenues and expenses, income, and each of the inflows of the financial positions. The taking the master of the business, the candidates with the productions of the new material, manpower, and other resources with the production of the targets. It cuts across the boundaries and coordinate the form of the diverse activities. The operating budget is the constitute the budget block used for the complete the master budget. Fixed budget is designed for remain unchanged and irrespective of the level of the activities and actually attained. It is based on the single level of the activities if the companies of the data from the actual operations with the single level activity reflected the budget. Fixed budget is the good performance of the measurement if output can be estimated within the closed limit. The flexible budget, it is prepared for the range of the more than the one level of the activity. It is the set of the alternative budget of the different levels of the activity. The flexible budget is prepared for the considering that the business of the dynamic, ever changing and never static. It is easy to change them with variations in production levels. This is the performance of the measurement and evaluation. Traditional and non-budgetary control techniques. The observation, the simplest way to control the organization activity is that the manager takes around at workplace and observes the progress work. Defect in the employee's performance can be spotted and corrected immediately. Face-to-face interaction is possible whereby the workers can get their doubts and solve on the job necessary. The guidance and counseling can be provided to them then and there. Statistical reports under the techniques. Company analyze the statistical data in the form of the mean and median and mode. Also, the analyze the standard variation and correlations and find the shortcoming control to it. Break-even point. The break-even point is defined as the point where the total and total sales are equal. The break-even point is to be described the point where there is no net profit loss. The firm just breaks even. Any company which wants to make the abnormal profit and the desires to have the break-even point, the graphically, it is the point where the total cost and total revenue curves meet. To explain the break-even analysis works, it is necessary to define the cost items. Fixed cost is incurred after the decision enter into the business and activity is made or not directly related to the level of the production. Fixed costs include but are not limited to depreciation on the equipment, interest cost and taxes, general overhead expenses, total fixed cost of the sum fixed cost, the variable cost, the changes of the direct relationship of the volume of the output. They may be include the cost of the goods and sold or production expenses such as labor, power costs and feed fuel, maternity and irrigations and other expenses directly related to the productions of the commodity and or investment in capital asset. The total variable cost of the sum of the variable cost of the specified level of the productions or output. The average variable or variable cost per unit TBAC is divided. The total fixed cost is shown in the figure by broken the time of the horizontal line. The total fixed cost is not changed level. The production increases. The total variable cost of the productions or the indicator the broken line of the stock upward, which illustrate the variable cost increase directly as the production increases. The total cost line is the sum of the fixed cost, total variable cost. The total cost line is the parallel total cost line, but it begins the levels of the total fixed cost line. The total income line is the gross value of output, shows the dotted line. There is a starting at the lower level of the graph is starting upward at any point of the total income line, the equivalent to the number of the units produced by the multiplied by the price per unit. The key point of the intersection of the total cost line and total income line with a vertical line down of the points level necessary cover the cost of the productions greater generates the positive and revenue. The mathematical explanation is break-even point is equal to F into S by V. S minus V. S is the savings of the additional returns. V is the variable cost. F is the fixed cost. Then the assumptions of the break-even analysis. The fixed cost is the or constants. Only the variable cost may be changes. A firm produces only one product. The selling price remains the constant and does not change with volume scale. The constant technology, the cost and revenue change and changes in sales volume. The advantages of break-even analysis. It explain the relationship between the cost and the production volume and returns. It can be extended to show how the changes in a fixed cost variable cost relationship in commodity prices in revenues will affect the profit levels and break-even points. The break-even analysis is the most useful when used the partial budgeting and capital budgeting technique. The major benefit to using the break-even analysis that indicates the lowest amount of business activity and necessary to prevent losses. It helps determining the optimal level of the output below would not be profitable for the firm to produce. It helps to determining the target capacity for the firm to get the benefit of the minimum unit cost of the production. The firm can be determine the minimum cost for a given level of the output. It evaluates the percentage of the financial yield from the project, thereby helps choice of the between the various alternative projects. The limitation of break-even analysis. It is the best suited analysis for the product at a time. It may be difficult to classify the cost as all variable, all fixed. There are the many tendency to continue to use the break-even analysis after the cost income functions have changed. The budgetary control. The budgetary control is the technique of controlling in which the company manages meets the budget, like production budget, sales budget, and finance budget, research budget, and development budget. And after this performance measure the budget amount, the budgetary control is to developing the spending plan, the periodically comparing the actual expenditure against the plan to determine the spending patterns to need adjustment to stay on track. This process is necessary to control the spending and meet the various financial goals. The process is budgetary control includes the preparation of various budget, the continuous comparisons and actual performance with budgetary performance of the revision budgets in the light of the changed circumstances. The objective of budgetary control. The budgetary control is the plan to assist the management for policy formulation and planning, controlling and coordination. The general objective budgetary control can be stated the following says: the planning budgetary plan action is budgeting the detailed plan of the action in the business over the period of time. The coordination. The budgetary control coordinates the various activities of entity organization to ensure the cooperation of all concerned towards a common goal. To control the necessary to ensure that the plans of the objectives are being achieved. To control the plans follow control follows the planning and coordination. No control in the performance is possible without determining the standards. Thus the budgetary control makes the control possible through the continuous measures against the predetermined targets. If there is any variations between the budget performance and actual performance of the same is the subject to analysis. The corrective action, the request of the effective budgetary control, clear cut of the objectives and goals should be will define the ultimate objective of realizing the maximum benefit should always be kept uppermost. There should be the budget of the manual which contains all the details regarding the plans and procedures for its execution. It should also specify the time table for the budget preparation of the approval, details about the responsibility and cost centers, etc. To make the budgetary control successful, there should be the proper delegation, authority and responsibility. The adequate accounting systems is essential to make the budgeting successful. For the budgetary control be effective, the proper periodic reporting system should be introduced. The employees should be properly educated about the benefits of budgeting systems, the advantages of budgetary control. To it facilitate the reduction of the cost. Budgetary controls guides management in planning for formulation of policies. The budgetary control facilitates the effective coordination of activities of the various departments and the functions by setting their limits and goals. To it ensure the maximization profits through the cost and control optimal utilization of resources. It evaluates for the continuous review of performance. Different budgets centers. It aims the management for efficient and economic production control. It facilitates the corrective action whenever there are the inefficiency and weakness in actual performance in comparisons with the budget. It guides the management in research and development. It ensures the economy in working. It helps the principles of standard costing, the budgetary control methods, the zero-based budgeting, the performance-based budgeting. The zero-based budgeting method is a method of budgeting in which all the expenses must be justified for each new period. Zero-based budgeting starts from zero base and very function within the organization is analyzed and it needs and cost the budgets are built around when needs upcoming period, regardless whether the target is higher lower than the previous one. The ZBB allows the top level strategic goal to implement it into the budgeting process by trying them specific functional areas in the organization where the cost can be first grouped, then measured and previous business and current expectation. The purpose of ZBB is re-examining all the programs and expenditure for each budgeting cycle, analyzing the workload and efficiency measures to determine the properties and alternative levels of funding for each program expenditure through the systems. Each program is justified in its entirely each time the new budget is developed. Zero-based budgeting is integration planning and budgeting into the single process of objective of development and redeployment of the object budget and scrutiny program. And zero-based budgeting can be thought of as such to provides the evaluate the programs. It allows the budget reductions, permits reallocations of resources from the low high priority programs Zero budgeting techniques of the each manages to establish objective programs consistent with organizational objectives, gain the agreement on them, define the device of alternative ways of achieving the objective, select the most practical effective alternative, break chosen of alternative, incremental levels of efforts, assess the cost of the benefits of each incremental level, describe the consequences, disapproval of the activity, rank all the activity of the unique in priority order, zero based budgeting, developing the decision packages. Decision packages is a document that explains a proposed activity, its goals and objectives, what the benefits are expected, how the performance will be measured, and all the cost will be incurred. In addition to decision packages should be outlined which alternate course of actions have been considered and why these were rejected. The ranking of decision packages in order to priority before each manager submits the decision packages on the behalf of his department. They must be first by ranked in order to the priority. Once all the decision packages have been submitted to the central decision making body, they are being ranked in terms of the priorities of the institution as a whole. The costing in each decision packages are also received, ensure that the excessive unrealistic in allocating funds which activities are not self-financing and requires the contribution of the central funds. Whatever the resources are available can be allocated to various activities on the basis of their ranking. When when this central fund has to be exhausted, the further decision packages can be approved. The advantages of the zero-based budgeting resulted the allocation of the resources as it based on the needs of the benefits, drives the managers to find out the cost of the effective ways to improve the operations, deducts the infected budget useful for service department where output is difficult to identify, increase the staff motivation by providing the greater initiative responsibility in decision making, increase the communication and coordination within the organization, identify the elements, wastages and obstacle of the operations. Disadvantages: zero-based budgeting, difficult to define the decision and units of decision packages as it very time consuming and exhaustive. The force to justify every details related to the expenditures R&D department and threatened, whereas the production department benefits necessary to train the managers ZBB should be clearly understood by the managers at various levels, otherwise cannot be successfully implemented. Difficult to administer and communicate the budgeting because more managers are involved in this process. The performance-based budgeting. The performance-based budgeting is budgeting that the related funding, expected results. Performance-based budget is often to ask the managing for the results. It is the process of relies heavily on strategic operational planning and performance accountability to build the budget. Many government organizations use the performance-based budget, and this is because of this result-oriented method to achieving financial goals. This helps them to determine the best way to use the money allocated in order to achieve the desired results. The performance based budgeting can show many different outcomes It may be focused on strategic planning to determine the development measures. It also provides quantifiable data to determine the success. This type of the budgeting may also helps to show the ways to achieve the from desired outcome, to show the different activities that are being undertaken. Even the simple plan may be help to evaluate the expenditure in a review process. This can be identify those need to back eliminated, which should be expanded. Operational audit, another effective tool, managerial control. The internal audit, or as it now coming to be called the operational audit. The operational auditing in its broadcast since the regular independent appraisal by a staff internal auditors for accounting, the financial and other operation business. The modern techniques, the management audit system. The audit means the periodic inspection, financial statements and verifying that the statement honestly, the fairly prepared according to the accounting principles. Audit thus provides the basis of the control. The scope of the management very wide. The management about audit may be areas like following: an appraisal managers, economic functional enterprises, fulfillment manager responsibilities, functioning of the board director, soundness of the organizational structure, intensity sale promotion efforts, emphasis of the research and development. External audit. External audit is conducted by the outside of the agencies who are consultants or specialists in auditing. Such external audit could be conducted as and when required or at regular intervals, depending on the purpose of and objectives of the audit. These audits can be directed their assessment of the internal situations within the company towards the outside company for the assessment of its system, the financial strength, and audits within the company practices in the areas of the quality management and overall performance. Audit of organization, the system audits of external certifications, and environment social audits for discharging the regularity and obligation. The internal audit, the continuous systematic review of accounting, the carried out by the specially trained and skilled group within the company. The group can be in the form of the department or selected from the cross-functional areas. The internal audits are directed towards internal functioning with respect to the policies, plans, goals, and performance. The purpose of internal audit or to identify lapse in the systems, scope of the improvement, the violations of the norms by the individuals, expenditures and wastages, resource of the gap, feedback to the management, and specific assignment, return on investment. The profits are measure the overall efficiency of the business. The profit earned by the relations of the capital employ the business in an important control device. ROI is used to measure the overall efficiency of the concern. It reveals how well the resource of the concern are used. High in either turn of the better or results. The PERT and CPM. The PERT can be treated as controlling techniques for the project and project implementation. The projects are undertaken install the new facilities for improving the organization capability and capacity to ensure the projects are implemented within the limits of time and investment plans. It is essential to control the projects from the planning and execution stages. One of the most popular techniques of planning and controlling the projects is the project evaluation review technique and the critical part method. The PERT is a chart graphic representation of project schedules showing the sequence of tasks The task can be performed simultaneously, and the critical path of the task must be completed on time in order to the project meet the completion of the deadline. The chart can be constructed with a variety of attributes such earliest at last latest state detour for each task, the earliest and latest finish dates of each task, and slack time between the tasks. The PERT chart can be document an entire project or a key base phase of the project. The chart allows the team to avoid the unrealistic and timetable and schedule expectations to help the identify and shorten task bottlenecks and focus the attentions of the critical tasks. Pure time is the estimates the optimistic time and estimate this is the fastest time activity can be completed. For this assumption is made, all the necessary resources are available at all the processor activities are completed and planned. The most likely the estimate most of the times project managers are asked to only to submit one estimate. In that case, this the estimate goes to the upper management. The pessimistic time estimate this is the maximum time required to complete an activity. In this case, is assumed that many things go wrong related to the activity. A lot of rework, resource, and unavailability are assumed when this estimation is derived. The benefits of PERT. The PERT is useful, provides the following information: expected project completion time, the probability the completion before the specific date, the critical path activities that directly impact the completion of time, the activities that have strict times and that can be in resources of the critical path of the activities. The CPM stands for the critical path method. The CPM project management technique that analyzes what activities least amount of scheduling flexibility and then it predicts the products during the schedule based on the activities that fall along the critical path. The activities that along the critical path cannot be delayed without delaying the finish time for the entire projects. The project plans with CPM typically or graphically represented in a diagrams. The distinction between the PERT and CPM. The PERT event oriented, whereas the CPM is activity oriented. CPM is assumed the duration of every activity is constant, hence only one time the estimate is given for each set of the activities. On the other hand, the PERT allows uncertainty, the duration of activities, hence three times estimated, optimistic, and normal are given. CPM requires the previous work experience for completion of each activity, which is not necessary to PERT. CPM is used for the main consideration, while the PERT with the time the main consideration. The advantages of PERT and CPM. The PERT and CPM provides the analytical approach to achievement of the project of the objectives and which are defined clearly. This facilitates better utilization of time, efforts, and capital. It identifies the most critical elements and pays more attention on these. If it thus facilitates controlled by the exemption and increase the effectiveness in handling projects. PERT CPM brings all the components of the projects together, flowchart, and permit the simultaneous performance of the different parts of the product. PERT CPM forces the manager to analyze all the possibilities and uncertainties. This helps to minimize the time and cost overruns. It provides the kinds of the feed forward control because delay in one activities mm, affects all the succeeding activities. The management can be action in advance by affecting the modification of future activities. The computer is now playing the virtual lives of mm, the people today. The revolutionized way one used to live. One cannot be now imagine a world without the computer, without information technology. It made the things happens really wonderful, really wonderful. It gives the virtual world itself where there are no barriers for communication, information sharing, idea sharing. Every field human activity may be is daily life, the official life. Everything is influenced under the cover of information technology. Thank you. We will see you in next video.